Hey guys, welcome back to Motherhood with Sophie. It has been a while, so it's been about a month since I last posted on my YouTube channel. It has been crazy getting into being a mom to this little guy who just woke up as soon as I started talking, so hopefully he'll stay quiet throughout, and I'll try and make this quick as possible. So I wanted to make this video, so this video is going to be about my birth story. The last video that I posted was the birth vlog, and I tried to capture as much of it as possible, but things are crazy and things happen so fast. So that's why I wanted to make this video and talk about my birth story and give more of my insight and experiences on what happened and what went about and what I felt like. So I'm just gonna jump right in and start from the beginning. So November 26th was one of the last things that I was vlogging about, and I went to the doctor's that day and I was 1 centimeter dilated. So, and my due date was the next day. So they went ahead and they did the cervical sweep. So we went ahead and did that, and they were like, if your water doesn't break or you don't start getting contractions, you don't go into labor within like 24 to 48 hours, it pretty much hasn't worked. We'll come back and we'll schedule an induction date. I really didn't want to be induced just because I had heard experiences about it and it just wasn't what I had envisioned for my birth plan and everything. So I really wanted to try everything, so I was glad we did the cervical sweep. And so then roll into Thursday the 27th of November, and everything had been fine. And then that morning I started to get really strong pains in my stomach, like a really sharp stabbing pain, and I hadn't experienced any pain like it before. It wasn't like the Braxton Hicks that I've been having. It was just one sharp stabbing pain right here. And I was like, oh, this feels funny. But it went away after like 5-10 minutes, and we went about our day, and we actually went and got our eyebrows done because I really needed to get my eyebrows done. So kind of glad we went and did that. And then we were at Artem's sister's, and we were heading out to go pick up his mom from work. And so we got in the car, and literally within 2 minutes of being in the car, I hear like this pop, and then the water just starts gushing. Like, it's such a weird feeling. And this was like one thing that I'd looked into, was what does it feel like for your waters to break? And it's so hard to describe, and it wasn't anything like I thought it would be. It's just like, so it's gonna be a little graphic, but it's so warm and thick, and so much of it. I was not expecting that much water, so it like gushed out, and like I moved slightly and more gushed out, and it kept gushing. So we put like a towel down, and I was like, okay, let's just go pick up your mom and drop her off at home, so she could be with the dog, so someone could be at our house with the dog. So we went and did that, and the contractions started instantly. As soon as my waters broke, the contractions started. And I had always, like, in my head thought, I'm gonna get contractions for like a day, a whole night, whatever, and then my waters will break maybe on the way to the hospital, at the hospital, so and so. But it was not like that. My waters broke and the contractions started after that. So they started, and like right away they were already 5 minutes apart. They weren't far at all, which I guess because my waters had broke, I was already faster on the process. So we went and picked up his mom. We came home and grabbed our bags and everything, and we called the hospital and let them know that we were on our way. And called my doctor, let him know. Our doctor unfortunately was on call at a different hospital, so he couldn't be there, and our second doctor was able to come, and he was really great. So we headed to the hospital. So by this point my waters broke at 5 p.m. and by the time we got to the hospital it was like closer to 7 p.m. So we got to the hospital, and Artem went and parked the car, and I waited, and then we went into labor ward, and we filled out the paperwork and everything and got into our room. So we got in our room and the contractions were 2 minutes apart by the time we got to the hospital. So it was like 5 minutes within like 2 hours. It was down to 2 minutes apart, which is really hard. Contractions, also nothing what I thought. So when I was having Braxton Hicks, it was all like in the back. It was all in the back and like a little bit of tightness in the stomach. But when I was having the actual contractions, it was just so tight and so much pain in the stomach. It was like really hard, but I just went into this focus zone. It was so crazy. I was like, I always thought I would be the more panicked one, and it was so funny when my waters actually did break. Arden was the one that started crying straight away, and I think it was just like a lot of emotions going on, and we weren't, like, it just happened out of nowhere, obviously, as it does, but I kind of just went into this focus zone. I was like, okay, it's coming, you've prepared for this, get ready, remember your breathing. And the breathing really helped me a lot. So we're at the hospital and it's 7 p.m. and the contractions are 2 minutes apart. So I got in my gown, and like I'd said, if you watched my previous video on my birth plan, my plan was to walk around as much as possible, help the process along, do everything as natural as possible. I didn't want any medication, I didn't want anything, I just wanted to do everything naturally. Of course, that didn't happen. So the doctor comes in and checks, and I was 4 centimeters dilated by the time we got there at 7 o'clock. So things were already moving along quickly, but we were still expecting 4 centimeters. Okay, it'll probably be quite a while, a few more hours extended on that. And if I look a little, my hair is still wet from a shower, but you gotta do what you gotta do when you have a baby and you don't have time to do everything. But yeah, so I was 4 centimeters dilated. The contractions were every 2 minutes and they were so intense. I couldn't get comfortable at all. I couldn't walk around because, and this is another thing I never expected, every time I had a contraction, more fluid and water gushed out, like a lot of it every time. So at the beginning I was trying to walk around to walk through the contractions, but I kept making puddles everywhere, and I felt so bad because Artem had to keep coming around and cleaning it up and everything. So that was just super, super hard. And so I decided that I was going to sit on the bed, and every time I had a contraction I had to like lean back. Like I couldn't put any pressure forward. Every time I was slightly bent forward, it was so intense around my stomach. It hurt so bad. So we did that for a few hours, and they checked me again at 9 p.m. and I was 6 centimeters dilated already. By that point I was ready for an epidural. The contractions were like every minute and a half, and it was getting super intense. Obviously I was progressing really quickly, and they were just so strong. It was, I could breathe through them, and I felt like I could have done it, but the shortness between each one, I couldn't catch my breath between each one. I was like and then I would have like a second, I would feel like, and it would be back again. So we went ahead and we got our blood work, everything checked, so we could go ahead and get the epidural. So around 9:30 the woman comes in and prepares me for the epidural. Honestly, I didn't want to do an epidural at all in the beginning. I was so scared. Like the thought of a needle going into my spine scared the living hell out of me. But so she preps me, rubs the thing, everything like that. And the hardest thing when you're getting an epidural, obviously you have to curve your spine, and my contractions were coming so often that to curve my spine and to curve into my belly made the contractions 10 times more intense, and it was so painful. And I'm having to stay still because this woman's trying to put a needle in my back, so I can't move. Luckily I had the most amazing nurse that was taking care of me during the labor. She was amazing. She was so supportive. She like held me during while I was getting the epidural. She held me, she supported me, helped me focus on my breathing. and was amazing. And I honestly, like, I don't think I could have got through the epidural without her supporting me and holding me and getting me through that. So I had the epidural. It was pretty instant. Within like 10 minutes everything was numb, like completely numb. It's like weird. At first it felt like pins and needles, and then it was just completely numb. She did the check with the cold ice pack on me, couldn't feel it, and as soon as that had fully kicked in, I couldn't even feel the contractions anymore. Like some people would say, oh, you can still like feel like a little discomfort and stuff. I couldn't feel anything, like nothing at all. I could just see on the monitor that I was having contractions still every minute to 2 minutes, but I felt nothing, and it was so great. So after the epidural, they're like, oh, get some rest. It'll probably still be a while, but we'll come back and check on you at 11. So the epidural was around 9:30, and like an hour and a half, they'll come back and check. So we were gonna get some rest, but Artem ended up ordering pizza, and I was waiting and stuff. So Artem went and grabbed his pizza and came back in, and by that time it was 11 o'clock. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cough right now. So it was 11 o'clock, and Artem literally goes to sit down to eat his pizza, and the doctors come back in, so he puts it away. And they're like, oh, we're just gonna check again, make sure everything's good. And in between 9:30 to 11, I pretty much hadn't felt anything. At this point, obviously, there was no moving for me anymore. I had to lay on my bed, on my side, and it was really weird. I started on my right side, but they were monitoring baby's heart rate, and he didn't like that side, so we switched to my left. That was something I didn't know would be a thing, that he didn't like a certain side that I was laying on. And also, obviously, I had to get a catheter at that point, which was another reason why I didn't want an epidural in the beginning. I was so scared. I've never had a catheter. I've honestly never even been to hospital since I was like 6 or 7 years old. I don't go to hospital. If I'm sick, I'm sick at home. Nothing severe has happened to me. I've always had really good health, like, thank goodness. So this was like my first time really being at hospital. And so we did the catheter, and I don't know what I was so scared about, honestly. If you have an epidural, you can't feel it at all anyways. I like couldn't feel anything, so that was okay. So anyways, it's 11 o'clock, and they come back, and they're like, oh, we're just gonna do a check again, see how far you've progressed since the 6 centimeters at 9 o'clock. And so the doctor goes to check, and he's like, oh, so I can feel the baby's head, you're ready to go, like, that's it, I feel baby's head. And the other doctor came and checked. She was like, yep, you're fully 10 centimeters dilated, you're ready to go, we're gonna get ready now. And it's so funny, Artem's like, wait, what, like now? We're ready to go now? Because we'd only get to the hospital at 7 p.m. and it's 11, so it'd only been 4 hours, and we're expecting this long haul that everyone says for your first labor is super long. It truly is different for everyone. And it's so funny, all the nurses were saying, I guess your body's just made to have a baby. So yeah, it had only been 4 hours, and it was 11 p.m. and they're like, okay, we're gonna get everything prepared, but let's just try one practice push, see how things go, so you just kind of get the flow for it. So they get me like into position and explain that, which I'm so glad, like, my doctors were super nice. They like explained how they wanted me to push and everything like that, which was super helpful, because I was like, obviously I've never done this before, I don't know, I'd heard different techniques. But so they went into that on my contraction. They want me to push for 10 seconds, stop, we'll do that 3 times, and then take a break, and do it 3 times and take a break, like, per contraction. So we went to go ahead and do the first push, and they were like, whoa, 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 okay, stop. And I was like, what is wrong? Like, what, has something happened? Why are we asking to stop? But my doctor was like, the baby's head is already coming out, so stop, let us get everything ready first before you end up pushing. So he was like right there, and it was so funny because when they did that, they like let Artem see, and like you could just see like this whole bunch of hair. He had so much hair. So they stopped and my doctor stayed there, and he like kind of talked me through things and everything, and the other nurse came in and set up the table and everything. And so around 11:30 it was at this point, and we were getting ready to start pushing pretty much, yeah, around that time. And so we started, and the nurse was super helpful, and she told me when a contraction was coming, because like I said, the epidural, I like couldn't feel the contractions at all. Towards kind of the end of pushing, I could feel them a little bit more, but I couldn't feel them at all. So they were telling me, and I was pushing, and it was weird. The epidural definitely, I know, helped a lot, but I could like, it just felt like a pressure. The hardest part about the pushing was I felt out of breath from pushing, but it was just like, it was so natural. It was so weird. It was so natural. I knew where to push exactly. It just felt right. I felt like the pushes that I was giving were good, and so I pushed, and I actually only pushed 7 times. That was it, around 7 times. And it took me from the beginning to the end of pushing was 16 minutes total, and he came out at 11:43 p.m. on the 27th of November. And it was just so fast. I was not, because obviously they say first labor expect to push anywhere between 1 to 3 hours, and like that's what I mentally prepared for, 1 to 3 hours. And I pushed and I pushed, and I give props to any mom that has to push for 1 to 3 hours, because even that 16 minutes that I pushed, it was like I could feel like I was gonna get out of breath because I was pushing so much into it, which was good because he came out. And it's so weird. It's like the head just feels like this pressure and pressure and pressure. And honestly, I don't know if I'm just like lucky, or this epidural was everything for me, or I'm just super strong, but I didn't really, that ring of fire that they talk about, I didn't feel that at all. It was just, it just felt like a pressure coming out. And as soon as that head came out, it was like a release of pressure, and then you do just feel like the body like wiggle out, like they say, like jelly. And like as soon as they took him out, they put him on my chest, and he was so heavy. I was not expecting him. Like I knew I got big, but he was so heavy. And so they put him on my chest, and he was just huge, and it was the most amazing moment ever. Artem was in tears, like speechless. Like it was just, you can't even describe the feeling, and I'm getting teary just thinking about it, but you can't describe that feeling. Like you've went this whole 9 months just wondering, what's it gonna look like, what's it gonna be like, and nothing can prepare you for how amazing that moment is when your baby is on your chest. And he was just so sweet, and he had so much hair. Like he still has so much hair, and he's so adorable, and I will show you him in a little bit. He's sleeping. But they put him on his chest, and I was like, oh my god, he's so heavy. But I was just looking at him, and he like was just staring at me, and it was like that first look, and it was amazing. And then he like started crying a little bit, and so I held him while they fixed me. And it was crazy as well. I was expecting, so once they did take him off, I was like, oh, okay, is it time to like start pushing now to get the placenta out? And they're like, oh no, your placenta came straight out like after him. And I was like, oh, that was also really nice, because I heard mixed stories of you having to like do the afterbirth, like give birth to the placenta, and that can also be painful. So it just slipped right out with it. Honestly, it was just a super easy birth for me. And I hate saying that. I don't want to be like, oh, this bitch had an easy birth. But it just felt very natural, and I'm very thankful for the experience. It was a very nice and pleasant and happy memory for me. And I'm sure it's a happy memory for everyone, but I know it can also be traumatic and be a lot. So they did that, and minor complications. I lost more blood than I should have. It wasn't too concerning. I just have lower iron levels right now, so I do take iron supplements for that. And I had to get a couple stitches because I did split. He was 9 pounds and 3 ounces, so he was a big baby. And sorry about that, this little guy woke up. He wanted to make an appearance apparently, but as I was saying, he was a big baby and I have like a tiny frame to me, so yeah, I ended up having stitches, but that was pretty much the only complication that we had. So after I gave birth, obviously they weighed him, did all the tests and everything. He did great. He got a 9 on everything. I don't know what the one less point would be on, but yeah, he did great. And so they gave him straight back to me, and we breastfed within, I want to say, 20 minutes of me actually giving birth to him. I breastfed him and he was amazing, weren't you? He was amazing. He latched on straight away and fed for a long time. I think like 40 minutes for the first feed. And then pretty much just hugged him for a while. Then they came back, and only an hour after I delivered, they were going to move me up to the next room. So it was hard at first. So I obviously give him to Daddy, to Artem, and I had to go to the bathroom pretty much before I was able to go upstairs. So she helped me up because my legs were still really numb, and it's so weird after having an epidural trying to walk when your legs are still kind of half numb. So she like helped me get to the bathroom, and we did that, and I peed straight away, which was awesome. And we moved up to the recovery room, and yeah, everything just happened so fast. He did great. Since he was over 9 pounds, which is a big baby, they have to check his glucose levels before each feed. So we had to do that like 4 times, and that's the prick in the foot, which was awful to see him have to get that so often. But he did great. He passed everything. And so since I delivered him at 11:43 p.m. that counted. It's the first night, so we only stayed one more night after that, and then we went home, and we've been home ever since. So yeah, he's slowly trying to wake up right now, but yeah, it was an amazing birth. It was so quick, and it was just, it hasn't scared me or put me off from ever doing it again. I can say that. Along with my pregnancy, I had a very nice, easy pregnancy. Heartburn was probably about the worst of it. And obviously the back pain and everything that you get. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed my birth story. He is kind of asleep, but we will say hi. Can you say hi? It is 6 weeks now since I gave birth. It was 6 weeks yesterday. He was 6 weeks old yesterday. And he's doing amazing. He is, well, so at his 1 month appointment, he was 13 pounds. So he had put a lot of weight on in that first month. We put 4 pounds on within a first month. So he's a big baby. He's very heavy. And he is just amazing. He's great. He eats well. He sleeps very well. Clearly, he's laughing at me right now. But yeah, so everything is going great. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and keep following my videos. I do plan to try and post more often now. The first month was crazy and super hard the first couple of weeks, but yeah. Also, any suggestions of videos you want to see, anything else you want to know, questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will get back to them straight away, or I will work on creating content that will help you. I really wanted to have this channel to help moms out there. I have friends that are also going through this and first time moms, and I know when I was pregnant and I was watching so many different labor videos and birth stories, and I just loved watching them, and I really feel like they helped me prepare for all the worst things, even though I didn't have to go through those stuff. So I really just want to be here and help other moms out, first time moms, or even second or third. There's sometimes people who give birth and then 10 years later and it feels like they're giving birth for the first time again because they forgot everything. So go ahead, leave any comments or questions, and share it with all your first time mommies and friends, and I hope to see you guys again soon.